Greetings to Dr. Madam Hadija, our English lecturer for this course, and to my fellow colleagues here. So, today we're going to talk about the gender discrimination and harassment among women at the workplace. So, based on the last meeting we have held on Microsoft Teams a few weeks ago, we have actually analyzed on what are the causes and the issues that led to gender discrimination, especially among female workers at the workplace. So this meeting basically we're going to talk about what are the recommendations to counter against this gender discrimination and harassment among the women, among the female workers. So to start off the group meeting, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Tang Chen Lee. I am the chairperson of this meeting for today, and I also represent from the Ministry of Human Resources (HR), with followed by my colleagues Stanislaus Singh and also Ko Yu Long. Well, we also collaborated with the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development. Natalie and Neo will be talking about the recommendations also later on. Okay, so a little bit of intro about this meeting, right? So the discrimination and harassment among women in the workplace is the issue that we're going to discuss on. We're going to delve into that later on. As like I mentioned, the collaboration of both ministries, Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development, and the Ministry of Human Resource, we both of us have the same goal, which is to further uplift the status of women in Malaysia. To start off this meeting, we would like to move on to the first recommendation by Cole.
Thank you, Pang. So this is a graph show the median monthly salaries of Malaysian employees by occupation in 2018. From this graph, we can know that the salaries of male employees are more than the female employees, even they have the same education level and qualification. Besides, the working opportunity received by the male employees are more than the female, as we can see in most of the occupation, the number of male employees are more than the female employees. So these two issues arise because the female employees are granted more paid leave than male employees. For example, in the case of maternity leave, the company have to pay female employees even she is not present for work for 100 working days. So to solve this issue, the salary and opportunity in work should be given depending on the individual's qualifications and their working efficiency, but not their genders. This decision is fair to all gender, which can create a conducive working environment and thus increase the employees' working efficiencies. And last, the income of company will be increased too. Besides that, for female employees who are on maternity leave, they can work from home depending on their situation because they can still conduct the meeting and complete their work at home nowadays. That's all from me.
I would like to add on. I feel that this is a perfect solution and it can be implemented right away immediately without much troubling the company. This is said so because only the human resource management will be involved in these amendments for this solution. So the human resource management will have to look into the employment qualifications with their respective salaries. And the administration should understand the equality and fairness that each worker of their company should be having. And yes, that's all from me.
Agreed. The factor of gender shouldn't be a reason to manipulate their salary. Instead, a person's qualifications, experience, and working efficiency should matter way more importance than their gender. Through this change in employment criteria, we can resolve unfair treatment to the female workers in terms of pay gap between gender difference.
Yes, I am agree with you too. And to add on, this way does not cost the company a single cent because it's about changing the internal system, but not the physical property of the company. However, it does cost the company some time to restructure its employment policy, but this is worth.
Yes, I believe that the discrepancy of salary between male and female workers is still a major big issue in Malaysia nowadays. So, as what I've course mentioned just now, balanced salary is what we're asking for in every company, not by judging their gender, but mostly on their performance, skills, and their qualifications. So, for example, if a woman happens to have a higher qualification than men, then the women should be promoted higher ranking than the male colleague, but whereas the male colleague should just follow the example of the women colleague and follow the footsteps as well. So basically, also the time is a major factor here to change the internal structure of the company. As we can see, only time will tell whether balanced salary will affect the overall achievements of the company. To move on to the second solution, I would like to pass on to Natalie.
According to a survey, income of single mothers per month, there are 68 of respondents earn between 101 to 500 ringgit per month, while there are only 1% of respondents earn between 1,001 to 1,050 ringgit. Thus, majority of single mothers in the research were living in extreme poverty. So, companies are suggested to subsidize extra women's health screening packages such as HPV, mammography, pelvic exam, and pap smears. The average price range is about 10 to 25 in public hospitals, 800 to 2,000 for private hospital, 100 to 500 in private clinics. With the subsidization provided, women employees can reduce their burden in daily expenses as health screening are considered expensive for them.
Giving subsidizations for workers without considering gender difference might sound confusing, but it is an effective indirectly solution towards the preventations of gender discriminations at work. Through these solutions, companies are able to improve the mental health and the positivity of their employees. In the case of female workers, they get to have regular checkup on their personal health to keep their working productivity high.
Yes, on the other hand, the male workers will now complain less regarding the productivity of female workers, and they also get to have regular checkouts as compensation for having fewer annual paid leave.
Yes, indeed. By giving these privileges to the employees, the company will now have a larger competition among the employees as they are all more motivated and more positive compared as before. And with this competition, they are able to generate a bigger revenue for the company. In return, this newly generated revenue is able to cover all the costs of privileges for the employees. Thus, it is a very good investment that every company should opt for.
Right, I do believe, like what Stan has mentioned, every company should invest in this idea because I think that this idea is entirely fresh and new. Providing subsidization to workers not counting on their genders, because the male colleagues will usually complain of their female peers, of female colleagues, of why they take more leave than them. It just happens so that the female workers have some unavoidable circumstances. So, health screening packages should be provided to the workers as well because we know that these packages are very costly, whether in private or public hospitals. Not what more to say to the low-income families as well. And also, this also increase productivity in a company, what whereas to reduce the burden in daily expenses as well. To move on to our last solution, I also would like to pass on to Dennis.
Thank you, the chairperson. So the next solution that we'll be coming up with is having a mutually agreed terms and conditions of employment. You see, conflicts in the workplace are often unavoidable, especially when employees of different backgrounds and different work style are brought together. However, every disagreement should be resolved properly to prevent the issue from worsening. So there are many reasons for a conflict to happen in workplace, especially including the issue of gender discrimination. And gender discrimination usually occur because of the privileges that the female worker have to take more annual leave with the excuse of giving birth. And according to the Malaysian rule, a female is able to take up to 90 days of their maternity leave that is fully paid. So these conflicts can be resolved very easily with a very good terms and condition. And for example, all the terms and conditions and the policy stated should be discussed seriously during the intake, even though they might be a sensitive issues to talk about. For example, the durations of different types of leaves, such as sick leave or maternity leave. So all these durations should be discussed in detail and make sure that both parties has mutually agreed to it. And all of these terms and conditions should be transparent to all the other workers. This is to avoid any misunderstandings that is not necessary to happen. And if there is any disagreement to the terms and condition, those disagreement and dissatisfaction should be resolved as soon as possible before the employment is accepted. So with the help of terms and condition, we can definitely reduce a lots of unnecessary conflicts in the future, and it also acts as a very important guidelines for future disagreements.
Yes, indeed. Misunderstanding always happens because of the lack of information between both parties. Simply mean that both parties were not clear of what they are required in their contract and they just blindly sign the agreement.
Indeed, mutual agreed T&C of employment is very important for the employers and the employee to understand what each party is expecting from them. All of the terms and conditions of employment should be run through in detail without any hidden meanings of stated policy. Make sure that both parties, the employer and the employee, are truly satisfied with the terms before signing the agreement.
To add on, so by doing this solution of having mutually agreed terms and condition of employment, there is no need for any company to spend extra expenses than they usually do when hiring an employee. For new employees, the company should be extra careful during the discussion of employment policies.
Yes, while for the existing employees, the company should spend more time revising and reconfirm the employment to ensure that the existing employees understand the terms and conditions clearly. Thus, this is a very practical and rational solution that every company should be implementing as soon as possible.
This recommendation is also very good as the last recommendation you guys have pointed out just now. The mutualistic relationship should be built between the employee and employer since day one in the company. And I do think that I'm aware of the lack of information created by these employers because they had some stated policies in order to discriminate or to make use of these workers fully in a negative way, which is not good for a company's productivity, right? So I think that a mutual agreed terms and conditions of employment is important for us to set up a yardstick, which is like a standard, meaning that if a company reach that kind of standard to achieve a success, then I think that that company will succeed and excel further with the prerequisite condition of mutual agreed terms and condition of employment. And also this also can remove or eradicate any disagreements to the terms and conditions. So this is an overview of our meeting just now regarding on how to solve gender discrimination and harassment among women at workplace. Firstly, we have talked about the balanced salary based on their performance. Secondly, to provide subsidization to workers. Thirdly, a mutual agreed terms and conditions of employment in a company. To summarize this meeting, I would like to say that Rome is not built in one day, because I think that although our recommendations are entirely fresh and new to start with, we only can rely on time, because time is very crucial here to play the part in showing the effects of these recommendations to the public. And maybe it takes years or even decades to see whether the gender discrimination is still an issue that has been plaguing our country for this all while. Yeah. So basically to end a note, I would like to reiterate that gender discrimination should not be a major issue in our country as soon as possible. Once again, I would like to thank everyone for joining this meeting, and have a nice day. Thank you to you all.
Thank you.